Hi, everybody. It's Susan again. I'm here hiding in my bedroom because it's so hot outside, as well as the fact that I've got construction happening all around me. So I'm once again with the AirPods, and sorry for the quality of sound, but it's as good as I can get right now because there's too much noise around me. So let's have a look at this Virgo new moon. So we're once again in the dark moon phase. It's a good time to turn inwards, especially now, as the days are noticeably shortening here in Europe. And a new moon, as well as the full moon, are always good times to kind of come within and check in what's going on in your life and what it is that you'd like to revise and explore in your own life. The upcoming new moon in tropical Virgo is taking place this Saturday, the 27th of August, and it's at 10:17-ish. That's Europe time. I'm here in Brussels. So that would be, for example, 4:17 in the morning, New York time. So there's a strong theme here of adapting to change and how to decide what needs changing and how we choose to go about doing that. So this is happening in the 10th sidereal nakshatra, or lunar mansion known as Magha, on the powerful fixed star Regulus. This can signify regal, conservative, and controlling energy. And it's about both adhering to authority as well as being authoritative. Magha is the energy that brings about change. It usually indicates the end of a cycle. And the new moon phase is that liminal space between endings and beginnings. So this is even more emphasized now. The sun here in Magha is good for leadership and authority roles, especially if that energy is used for self-control and empowerment and not just power or control over others. But the moon in Magha Nakshatra can lead to fears of inadequacy or a dependence on outer authority, which can be in the form of people, ideas, or money. So obviously we have both here right now. So this is an energy that is needing to be kind of integrated or balanced within ourselves. And of course, culturally, socially as well. Magha also represents our ancestors. We gain strength and courage when we acknowledge the suffering and wisdom that our personal and collective ancestors transmitted over countless generations of life experience, hard life experience. And what we encounter today pales in comparison with what most of our ancestors had to deal with. Our own resilience and capacity to overcome is a testimony to the strength that got them through all sorts of difficulties. We're here now as a product of that, not victims of it. The energy of Virgo is empowered by recognizing our innate capacity to overcome anything that doesn't kill us, and rather to heal ourselves so that we can become healers in turn. When we forget this and focus on disempowerment, we fall into that bottomless pit of victimhood, Virgo's weak point. And as the sun and moon are together now, we have this opportunity to reflect on the big lessons of Magha Nakshatra. What should we keep and foster, and what should we release or destroy? And even more importantly, in whom or what should we have confidence? Who or what has authority over us? During this new moon, Venus, which represents our values, money, and relationships, is in a tense T-square with Saturn, representing restrictions, delays, and limitations, as well as Uranus, representing individuation, innovation, and challenging how things are being done around here. So we're in the same story as we have been for years now, but it sometimes comes to these points of crystallization. There's this point that requires something new to be analyzed or new to be examined, and then something new to be done about that. And then adding to this tension, Mars is squaring this Virgo new moon from the sign of Gemini, which it just entered a few days ago. So this means now the sun, the moon, and Mars are all currently ruled by Mercury, which is traditionally considered in its diurnal or daytime energy to be the ruler of vivacious Gemini, while in its nocturnal or nighttime energy, Mercury rules the introspective, quieter sign of Virgo. Nothing if not versatile, Mercury behaves very differently in each of these signs. In Gemini, it's about outreach, exchanges, and connections of all kinds, expressing enthusiasm for people and ideas, using written and spoken words or symbols to communicate in any way possible. Think of musicians playing and singing their songs. In Virgo, though, it's about understanding, processing, and analyzing those interactions and the symbols and the words, and internalizing that, parsing it out, trying to get to know it and understand it, rather than externalizing that. And you can think about how those same musicians, for example, compose and arrange and write down and record their music. So it's the other side of the same story. So because Mercury is typically very changeable, and particularly so when stimulating and hyperkinetic Mars is there in Gemini, there can be a sense of wanting to bring about change without really having a plan for what comes next. I'm sensing this amongst our leaders. I don't know about you, but I don't find anywhere in the world that I'm getting inspired by anybody's plan for what is actually going on right now. And in fact, they seem to be falling all over themselves to be doing stuff that appears to be helpful or dynamic. And in fact, the result of that is chaotic and just basically a mess for most societies around the world. People are becoming frustrated with this chaotic energy. We're seeing this magnified now in this stage, and over the next few months, we're going to see that really take off. So strap in. So this sense of wanting to bring about change without having this plan, without having a kind of a sense of step-by-step methodical thinking it through, can either lead us to scattered energy and possibly overlooking potential solutions, or to analysis paralysis, and both are possible as well. To complicate this situation, Mercury is currently in Libra, which also has its issues around making choices. Mercury in Libra can put too much emphasis on what others might want or think. So decisions are often agonizing or unreliable because they aren't sincere. They're not coming from within in terms of what the individual wants. They're coming from in the sense of what the individual thinks everybody else will be happy with. That's not a great foundation for choice. So that people-pleasing tendency can seem really diplomatic and kind on the surface, but it's deeply frustrating because it puts the onus of the decision on the other person, on the other party. If you've ever sat with a Libran trying to decide what to order from the dinner menu, you know exactly what I mean. Changeability is what gives both Gemini and Virgo the reputation for being anxiety-prone signs. Although the stressed-out Gemini might hyperventilate, well, the Virgo would be more likely to have an upset stomach. Virgo is known for its tendency to be hypochondriacal and fussy and nervous around issues of hygiene and health, largely due to this internalized overthinking. This is quite different to the externalized spontaneous buzz and chatter that sometimes just nervously fills this space that typifies the more chaotic Gemini energy. So remember that worrying in any form is negative goal setting. And so when you're thinking along the lines of what could go wrong, or not planning, on the other hand, for contingencies and what might go wrong, but not in a way that you're obsessing around that, you're just causing yourself to go deeper and deeper into that spiral of getting more of what might go wrong. And of course, coming with a lot of personal and physical anxiety as well. Anxiety is becoming such a prevalent phenomenon in our modern life. It is largely due to too much information coming from that Gemini energy and the overthinking Virgo energy. This will be especially the case for you if you have quite a lot of planets in these signs, or if you have very, very strong Mercury in your chart, and maybe that Mercury is not in good dignity, or maybe the Mercury is challenged by Mars or by other planets that potentially overstimulate that. Mars transiting Gemini is one example. It's going to be there from now until the end of March 2023. And that's going to be bring us all of that and more for many months to come. So we might as well learn to manage this energy within ourselves, because it's certainly not going to be possible outside of ourselves. I'm going to do another video separately about Mars in Gemini and give you details about what that represents in general and how we can also work with that. And that includes for those of you who might have aspects between Mars and Mercury in your chart. So you don't even need to have them placed in either Virgo or Gemini, but rather the energy of Mars and Mercury can also reproduce that kind of impact in our chart. And there's really interesting ways to work with that to bring out the best of it. So there's also a lot of fear around change these days. And I often get questions from clients during an astrology reading about whether something is good or bad. there is no good or bad in life in general, especially not in astrology in particular. The question itself reflects this deeper fear of change. So it's coming from this misunderstanding of how life works. So that the sense of is something good, meaning do I prefer it, doesn't necessarily mean it will be the best thing for us. And sometimes what we consider to be bad or something we don't want actually turns out to be extraordinarily helpful or puts us in a position where we grow enormously, which is what we're here to do, so that we can start to overcome other things in life and just become a much, much better person as a result. So clinging to the idea that something should look a particular way, or even worse, the sense that things will always be a particular way, also stems from our fears about not being able to control things that deep down we know we can't possibly control. So there's this kind of paradox internally where we have this feeling like we've got to grab this thing and wrestle it to the ground, and all the while knowing that we really can't. And so that we put ourselves in this kind of pressure cooker, totally unnecessarily, that makes things even worse in terms of how we choose and act in the world around us. And this clinging makes going through change a major source of anxiety and insecurity, when in fact it's built into the natural ebb and flow of life itself. Virgo rules the stomach, our digestion, and our nervous system. And we know that mental stress immediately impacts our digestion and, of course, the intestinal flora as well, which affects our immunity. So just think of what happens when you don't digest or process or eliminate your food. That same constipation and malabsorption also happens on the mental and emotional level too. It's important that we process what's going on, not just in a sort of intellectual way, but we really feel what's going on. Remember all the amazing things that have happened in your life that were entirely unplanned and unexpected, just completely out of your control. You didn't do it. It's absolutely possible to live in the flow of life like that every day. And this spontaneous, synchronous way of living brings peace and contentment with much less effort than we expend by grasping and clinging to things or to people or to ideas. There is a way to work through this anxiety, and we can practice doing it every day. A new moon is always a chance to renew our intentions and goals, along with our thoughts and feelings. In the sign of Virgo, this regeneration is especially connected to our health and daily routines and the work that we do, including the drudgery and the daily grind, as well as our mental patterns and how that might affect our capacity to feel healthy and well, or to experience healing, or the opposite. And just take a moment with me now, if you'd like, to soften your heart and abdomen and just smile to yourself. And just allow yourself to feel yourself without the mind interfering, without thinking about it. Just feel yourself and feel your feet, bringing your attention to your feet, and just enjoy a long, easy breath in through the nose. And when you're ready, then exhale fully and completely. And now just gently hold that breath out. And just keep holding the breath out without struggling or forcing it. Just keep holding it out a little while longer. And if you can, keep going a little while longer, still with the breath held on the exhale, not breathing in until the body naturally asks you to breathe in again when it's time. So you've just practiced building up your willpower. Studies have indicated that the ability to hold the breath for an extended period of time is a good predictor of our success in the face of difficulties and challenging goals. Psychologists call this distress tolerance. I prefer to call it resilience. As a side note, holding the breath out in this way is the only yoga practice explicitly described in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, with the aim being to concentrate the mind, leading it to stillness. Our awareness shifts beyond thinking when the mind focuses all of its attention on whether or not there's going to be another breath coming. Try this practice regularly and see for yourself if you can still fret over your everyday anxieties while doing it. We've got to get comfortable with discomfort in order to build resilience and to thrive. This has always been true, yet it's even more urgent now. Anyone listening to this has enjoyed living in this extremely rare period in which we haven't had to question whether our basic survival needs will be met. This has made many of us a bit lazy and entitled, expecting things to be easy. But the harsh truth is the universe owes us nothing. It helps to remind ourselves of this as we go through the coming period of profound change that's going to force us to adapt in ways we haven't needed to before. We can practice our own resilience by mastering how to breathe through any feelings of anxiety and the need to control what's going on around us. This way, we learn how to control our mind and our response to our thoughts instead. This is known as surfing the urge, and it builds willpower and resilience because we're resisting our knee-jerk reactions to what we fear or dislike the most. Unempowered Virgo energy wants to control its environment and becomes anxious because of this very tendency to over-control and be hyper-vigilant, always wanting things to be a particular way in an attempt to feel safe. Empowered Virgo energy understands that the purification of our own mind and a humble relationship to life itself is what brings us the freedom we need to feel powerfully whole and healthy in mind and body. Practicing mindfulness helps us realize what's happening right now. It's not a complicated practice. It's deceptively simple, yet profound. If you'd like to give it a go, just begin with whatever you're feeling right now in your feet, sensing whatever they're touching, paying attention to your feet with your eyes open or closed, and continue sensing your body internally from the feet up, and aware of the sensations in your legs and the base of the body, the back of your body and the head, and sensing your face and the chest and shoulders, your arms, elbows, and palms of your hands. And feel your heart. Make space for your heart. Release any tightness in the stomach and the intestines. And allow the breath to flow naturally now. Just feel yourself fully here in this moment. Each breath is a purification. Every inhalation is a new beginning. Every exhalation is an ending. And trust that your body knows how to breathe without you needing to do anything. Just let it breathe. And then take a deep breath in through the nose again and exhale even more deeply from your mouth. And just notice how wonderful it is to breathe. You can do that a few more times, inhaling through the nose and exhaling deeply through the mouth, and even sighing as you do that, really releasing tension in the body. And we know that sighing itself also allows the liver to do its job better, because that tension, that anxiety actually tenses up the liver, and it can't filter, it can't detoxify the body. Our need to control comes from the assumption that we know best how life should unfold, but it limits the endless other possibilities that lead to connection and synchronicity throughout life. And the notion that we brought ourselves to this stage in our life through our own nonstop control and conscious thinking is and always has been false. Most of what happens in life is beyond our wildest imagination. We're not making it happen. We're choosing how we participate in what is arising in our awareness all the time. This is the difference between cooperating with and surrendering to fate. You could say having faith and trying to micromanage life instead, feeling the contrast between that. It's huge. In preparing this video, I looked back on my blog post from the Virgo New Moon in September 2020. Remember back then? And this passage jumped out. Spiritual practices are designed to sustain us through life's ups and downs, not to make us comfortable. They're not hobbies or pleasant distractions that get set aside because things are too difficult. If we have genuinely learned the essence of teachings that we've been studying for so long, we know that they are especially valid in their total application when life shakes our courage. So surrender to what is right now and practice keeping space open for healing and creativity to flow through you. Surrender is not the same as giving up. It's not capitulation. It simply means letting go of the things that we couldn't possibly control anyway. Now let's have a look at where this new moon in Virgo is happening sign by sign. So for Aries, this is your 6th house of work, your co-workers, your daily life and responsibilities, your pets, issues of health and illness. This is actually the house of Virgo. And your daily rituals and habits come in here as well. So maybe you're now launching into something where you realize something needs to change, something I need to start again, maybe to regenerate a fitness program or change the diet or change the way you work. Aries people are often driven, and your ruler now, Mars, is in Gemini, which may make your energy feel a little more scattered and increase that sense of doing everything all the time. So maybe this is where the new moon will help you reestablish your cycle. This cycle will be the next lunar cycle for about a month, where you can really set an agenda for yourself to freshen up in that area of life that really underpins our health. For Taurus, this affects your fifth house of children and studying, creative projects, your hobbies, your love life. It's entrepreneurial projects, gambling, luck as well, and risk taking. Doesn't mean you get luck. It's whatever the luck is that stands out in your chart. So beware that not everybody actually has good luck in terms of gambling. So luck can be seen in all kinds of different ways. But in terms of gambling, if there's a new moon here, it doesn't mean you should run out and gamble or buy a new lottery ticket. I mean, why not? You just gamble what you're prepared to lose. So not more than that. This could also be a new start in relationship because the fifth house is the house of love and joie de vivre as well. So it's maybe a relationship to life itself. You've got Uranus going through your sign. It's still another 3 or 4 years with that in your sign. So there's a lot of change going on. So it's a really good idea for Taurus, particularly, to make regular incremental changes. Keep checking in with what it is that you need to do to feel that you're actually making progress here. And now for Gemini, this involves your fourth house of lineage, your residence, your emotional state, and whatever makes you feel secure. Your parents and family situations and issues of property, your house and home. And as Mars is now in your sign since last week until March 2023, you're likely to feel the urge to take action in the most important areas of your life because the fourth house is one of the big pillars of life. And because it's so fundamental, the foundation of everything else, it affects you, it affects your relationships, it affects your career. So you might feel that you want to take action in lots of different areas of your life. But before you do, just ask yourself, do I need to do this now? So you just keep asking that same question over and over before jumping in, Gemini, because you will jump in, especially with Mars there. And so the question gets asked again, do I need to do this now? Do I need to do this now? Do I need to do this now? And do I need to do this now? So make sure you're answering all of those questions affirmatively before you jump in, because otherwise you can really tend to stir things up in a way that you might find chaotic or disturbing, for later on. So just think before you jump in. With Mars in your sign, that's going to be a challenge for a little bit of time. So be careful that you're, just keeping that in mind. Hey, Cancer, this is in your third house of siblings, cousins, vehicles, your neighbors, and community. This has to do with local travel and moving around in short bursts. So they traditionally say overland travel rather than overseas travel. So you might be traveling, or you might have a plan to travel in this next phase where you start to initiate these energies where you want to develop maybe new contacts with people, new skills as well, new talents. Maybe there's something new coming in terms of learning or teaching. Maybe that's you, or maybe you're the student. And it's about communications as well, and the way that you think and communicate your ideas. For Leo, this is happening in your second house of whatever supports you in life, including food and what you like to eat, your family, your wealth, things that you own, your stuff, your self-esteem, your earnings, your talents, your personal resources and income. The second house is often the money you already have or whatever you've got in the bank, for example. And this is also about how you see yourself in all of these areas. So maybe there's something new coming in there in this month. With the new moon there's something new to plan or to decide about how you relate to all of that. Virgo, this is in your first house. This is you and your identity, your body and your constitution. It has a lot to do with health and your personal needs and desires. So you get this every year at this time around your birthday. You get your new moon. You get this chance to kind of revise yourself and refine yourself. And this is something that brings you a lot of benefit if you can do that every year at this time, but also thinking of doing that, especially now where that affects your health overall and your personal needs and desires. What is it that supports me? What is it that I'm doing maybe that is not really helpful? Is it causing me anxiety, or is it causing me health issues? And what can I do about that? So this is, again, really important because it affects all the main pillars of your life. So it's you, it's where you live, it's your emotional and material security, your relationships, and the role that you play in society. So your new moon is an offering of a completely fresh appearance on the scene, as it were, for Virgo. Good luck with that. For Libra, this involves your 12th house of the past and ancestors and psychic awareness. It's very spiritual in the 12th house as well. Research as well is really good for doing behind the scenes investigating or research. Great if you're a student or if you're having to prepare work that isn't going to be showing up maybe until your new moon comes around in the next month. And this is also about your subconscious mind. So things that are coming up from potentially the things that might undermine you. This is often called the house of self-undoing. So it's just also observing, what am I doing that might not be supporting me, particularly in terms of self-sabotage or addictions and things that are not really supporting your overall well-being. It also represents people or things that are confined or hidden from view. This is where we can find illicit affairs, for example, or business deals that are a little dodgy, and then sleeping and other bed pleasures. So everything that's hidden from other people's purview so that you know about it. It might be secret or it might just be private, one or the other. This is also about faraway places and people. So that can also involve traveling or working with people from far away. So this is an interesting month for Libra, a really good time as well to have a sense of starting something fresh that takes you in the right direction, that is going to really support your well-being. For Scorpio, this involves your 11th house. It's your friends and your colleagues, it's associates, networks of all kinds. It's your goals and hopes and dreams and wishes, and networks also including things like internet and social media. This is also the money you earn from whatever it is that you do. The 11th house is also a house of money. So there can be something that comes in terms of new source of income or new sources of money coming in that's not necessarily new in terms of unexpected, but it's maybe a pay rise or something that you can determine is more important to put some emphasis on. So this is an interesting place for a new moon. It's quite an inspiring house. The 11th house is a very positive house, usually bringing good fortune. So I hope you have really good luck this month, because since Ketu is in your sign, the south node in your sign, until July 2023, you might be feeling like you're doing an awful lot of shedding. And in fact, I mentioned Magha Nakshatra earlier. Ketu is considered the ruler of Magha. So this is a really perfect way of bringing all of that energy together, what it is that you need to shed, what it is that needs to change so that something new can come in. So it could even be that you're deciding, literally to hang out with different people, or to change your sense of what is important in terms of your goals and dreams. So a really good time for Scorpio to let go. Sagittarius, this is in your house of career, the 10th house of social status and whatever responsibilities you have, social and life responsibilities. It's about authority and commitment, and it's also how you engage with other people and how you're seen by other people. So it can be very interesting to have a new moon here because it can show you something new that's developing in terms of a career. And if you've been thinking along those lines, like what you'd like to maybe generate in terms of how you reach out in the world, that can also be a vocation, not necessarily what you're being paid for. But this would be a really good time for you to launch that idea or something new that brings you into a new phase in your life. For Capricorn, this is your ninth house of traveling, long distance travel. So it's often considered like travel for pilgrimage or travel with a purpose, travel for learning something. So it's adventurous, it's far away, it's not like lying on a beach kind of travel. This is also about publishing and higher consciousness. This is your house of Dharma as well. The Dharma is what it is that you find your sense of purpose is. What is it that you'd like to feel you're here for? What is it that gets you out of bed, your ikigai, gets you out of bed in the morning? It's about your beliefs as well. And it's about higher education as well. So it can be something related to studies, if depending on where you are in life, you might be deciding to embark on new studies. And so, of course, being September in many parts of the world, that's when students go back to school. So if you're a Capricorn, this is always a really good time of the year for you, because you always have this new moon roughly around the time that kids go back to school or students go back to university. And that probably is what gives Capricorn the edge. You're ambitious anyway, but you've probably got this edge of feeling like everything's a fresh start now while we start off to school. So good luck with all that as well. For Aquarius, this is in your eighth house of payments and death and taxes, the grumpy old eighth house. Psychology as well is your deeper psychology and shared resources, your marriage and intimate partnerships. This is also where we find our deepest fears. So obviously the deepest fear is the one of death, right? So we're fundamentally afraid of dying, but those fears can hold us back and undermine us. And so you've got already Saturn in your sign. So with the new moon in the eighth house, there may be something that you've realized because Saturn has been in your sign, making you kind of get serious about stuff and get organized in life, that maybe now you can launch, you can start something new, freshen up in that area, organize your finances, organize your sense of values with your partner, if you have one, or that might be with regards to communal funding, government, or other kinds of sponsorship. This is also money that comes from clients. The eighth house is whatever you earn from the seventh house. So that can be money that comes either from your business partners or from clients or from your spouse, your life partner. So you're definitely putting your house in order here since 2020, since December 2020 when Saturn moved in there. So I think you're well placed to dot the I's and cross the T's, as it were, here. And then finally, Pisces, this affects your seventh house of committed relationships and professional and personal partnerships. They also say this is the house of open enemies. So open enemy doesn't mean necessarily like what is going to undermine you. It's just like, think of it as competitors. So, if you've got competitors in a field or in whatever you're working on in life or whatever you're studying towards, you might find that there's certain competitors. And so this is also potentially giving you new impetus or new drive in that area of life. It can be new people coming in, absolutely. And it can also just be your way of relating to others that's changing or that's freshening up. So a good thing to focus on here, close friends and clients, business partnerships, life partners. This includes also people you consult with, like the experts you might require to work with, like lawyers and potentially psychologists or specialists, medical specialists, people that give you support in terms of advice are also here. And so that can be something that you can start afresh or find somebody new if that's interesting for you. But obviously, let it sink in, let it resonate. You've got Neptune in your sign all this time. So it is worthwhile paying attention to who's got your back and who's real, who's legitimate in your life. Are your plans legitimate in life as well? Because with Neptune in the sign of Pisces, for Pisces natives, it can make things a little blurry. So either you become a little vague and blurry, maybe not reliable or just not clear, not sure, or other people around you are like that and you're not really seeing them for who they are. So this is a good month for you to analyze all that as well. Put your ducks in a row and see what it is that might need changing here. T.S. Eliot said that what we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. So this is the perfect description of a new moon. The end is where we start from. So best of luck for this lunar cycle, and I'll see you again in the next video.